Welcome to the Sonic Collective, a music podcast that explores a different album or musical concept each month, diving deep into its history, context, and impact on the music industry. Join our hosts, Alan, Scott, and Darren Scott, that's way too many Scotts, as they share their thoughts, insights, and personal connections to the music, inviting you, the listener, to discover new perspectives and appreciation for some of the greatest albums and music of all time. All right, knock it off, you two. All right, hey everybody, welcome to the Sonic Collective. I am Darren Scott. I am joined by Scott Gregory, Alan Dupuis here in Calgary, and across the pond, or multiple ponds, over in Thailand, our good friend Scott Coates. This month, I chose The Cure, The Head on the Door. So if you listen to the pre-episode where we talk about why we picked the pick, I basically alluded to, I was a big music fan, but I sat by this very cool girl in high school, Susan Rashid, cousin of David Rashid from the famous Prince Edward Island band Haywire. Look them up there. Mind-blowing band from the 80s. You'll love them. But she was really cool and into very alternative music at the time. And honestly, it's funny, I still remember her name. And I am 54 now, so high school was a very long time ago. But I just remember she was like a music muse for me. And she was into U2. And like that sounds funny, but I remember at the time, like nobody knew who U2 was. And she introduced me to U2. And I vividly remember her having this shirt on that was the album cover for The Head on the Door by The Cure. And I was like, hey, what band is that? And like whatever she was into, I just tried to find out. And this isn't in the streaming land, and we live in Charlottetown, PEI, so to get introduced to new modern music wasn't necessarily always that fast. So I always think it's funny, like this album came out in 1985, but this would have been 86, 87 for me, where we're just getting introduced to it. So now it's like Taylor Swift released something, the world knows about it, and it's popular immediately. But back in our day, goddamn kids these days, in the 80s, it might take a couple years for that song to really catch, especially in another country. So coming over to the U.S. and to Canada. So it was probably a few years later. They were probably talking about 86 for me. I graduated in 88, so somewhere in there, grade 10, 11, when I finally heard this band. But I thought it was really interesting, just a very different sound, I think, for that time in the 80s. There was a lot of new wave going on. That was, happening at the same time, but there wasn't, as much of the sound. Anyway, we always like to throw it to other people, but that's why I really got to know The Cure at that time. I didn't listen to too much, but I have liked them for a while, and I picked this album. But as we go around here, I'm just going to start with the other guys and see what they thought, if they even knew this band that well. And I'm going to start with Alan. Why don't you tell us what you thought of The Cure?
All right. Thanks, Darren. I didn't know too much about The Cure. I mean, I've heard of them, obviously, like a very big 80s band. I guess I kind of had these preconceptions about them that, they were this sort of like prototypical goth or emo band or whatever. So I guess I expected we were going to get into some like really droning and moody, depressing music this month, but that turned out not to be the case at all. So I was very pleasantly surprised, I guess you could say, just how upbeat the music was. Two of the big singles off of this album, Close to Me and In Between Days, are arguably the more upbeat songs on the album. So I don't know if maybe they were trying to like shake off their sort of like, I don't know, gothy image or whatever with the release of this one. But I really enjoyed it. There was a big diversity of sound that I found. Like every track kind of sounded different from the last. Some of the highlights for me would have been just the guitar tones overall sounded terrific, even though, like, on every song they were quite different. And there were a few different tracks where they kind of sprinkled in, I guess you could call it, like, Middle Eastern flavors almost. And I, especially noteworthy in a track called The Blood, which probably for me anyway is one of the standouts on the album. There were a few other songs I really liked too. The song Push had this sort of like really sprawling, optimistic, very 80s intro, but it was super catchy. And the song Screw is also just super terrific. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think I would as much as I did. Robert Smith isn't what I would call like a classically good singer, but he has a very unique sound. And as the principal songwriter, like it's pretty clear to me that he knew what he was doing. So I think just sonically, this album, it sounds like a classic. Like I think it really holds up well. There were times when I was very much reminded of like just the era in which this album came from, due to some of their aesthetic choices or the production value or whatever. But yeah, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed it. Don't have a whole lot more to say though. Maybe I'll throw it over to Scott Gregory. He can pick it up from there.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I'm pretty familiar with The Cure. Yeah, and a couple of their more iconic songs are on here. Alan mentioned In Between Days already, highly recognizable for anyone that's delved into the 80s in general. I used to go to a club called The Warehouse in Calgary. I see smiles. Yeah, it was in college, and they played a lot of gothy, punky, Brit type stuff, right? And it was then that actually I got a taste of it, and what I call the big three C's: The Cult, The Clash, and The Cure. I've always hated Morrissey. I use a different C word for him, but it doesn't qualify him to be on this list. But yeah, this song on its own pretty much cemented them in my mind as, greats both in lyrically and musically. And then Burn from the Crow soundtrack is right about the same time. I heard that by them as well. And that whole soundtrack slaps as an aside. So if you like this album, go check the Crow soundtrack as well too. Close to Me, you mentioned as well too. It's the other big track off this album. I really enjoyed that as well. I've got both In Between Days and this on several of my playlists, and they're upbeat, yet they're super emo at the same time, right? Like, I don't know how he does it. And I think that's Smith's strength, right? Is that his singing, his guitar work is just so emotive. And when he's playing upbeat, he's still kind of angsty in a lot of these, broody and gloomy, and you could say negative, but a lot of his songs just really speak with this kernel of hope and optimism, and maybe even yearning in them as well too, right? I just think it's very rich, the landscape that he cultivates on his albums. But outside of those two, I can't really say I'm a big fan of the album in general. And maybe I'm unfairly judging it because, I've gone back through the Cure discography a couple times, and I much prefer their previous darker albums. And this is really a departure for them. It was a turn for them. I remember another local band people got mad at called Tegan and Sarah. They released an album called Heartthrob, and a lot of fans thought that they were chasing commercial success and that they weren't staying true, quote unquote, to their sound. Reading through on the album, Smith, he had a clear vision of what he wanted to do, and it was intentionally all over the place. And he had tried different styles, and he wanted to go in different directions. He wanted to be really eclectic, right? But I'm just not feeling it. Heartthrob still felt like a cohesive, well-made album, while The Head on the Door doesn't really seem to follow any rhyme or reason that I could really, a thread I could pull on. But when I look at the Smashing Pumpkins cover of A Night Like This, it's clear that these songs are still best enjoyed in a very Cure-ish Robert Smith style, even if people felt that it got too poppy. So yeah, the problems I have with the album aren't the fault of any particular track. I also find Sinking very compelling in composition and lyrics. It's darker, it's broodier, it reminds me more of their earlier works. And I'd rank it up there in terms of tracks, and left my first listen through on a high note with that. It's like he's extending an olive branch at the end of the album for his longtime fans, right? So while I can appreciate that there are some strong standout tracks, there's nothing really wrong with the rest of the album. I just can't really say I enjoyed it as an album experience, and that's what we're grading on here, unfortunately. I don't feel a thread pulling me through the whole thing. And I don't think swapping the order of the tracks or removing any or adding any more would have really made a difference. So today that wouldn't be an issue, as you could just yoink songs you like as you go. But I think that's what this podcast exists for, is to find those listening experiences that are more than just the sum of their parts. And I didn't get them. Didn't get that from this. TLDR, didn't hate any individual songs, but didn't love it as an album. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, it's funny how we sometimes align on these things. And I kind of noted how short Alan's review was. And as I was making notes for this, I found myself coming up a bit short on what to say. And I think some of what you've said as well, Scott Gregory, echoes. I really only knew Friday I'm in Love by The Cure, which has been on some of my playlists over the years. And I knew Love Cats mainly because a girl that I kind of wanted to have something happen with, I remember, liked Love Cats, and I tried to pretend I thought it was cooler than I really thought it was because that girl. On this one, I did really quite enjoy In Between Days, as you have both cited, Kyoto Song, and Close to Me. Those three kind of stood out. I must admit, I really thought I would dislike this album just because my impression of The Cure in the past was not that high. So overall, I did like the album more than I thought I would, and it kind of flew by a few times when I listened to it doing something. And I know I always mention, but 37:46 is the running time on this, and I thought that was just about right, because the few times I did listen to it before I got tired, it sort of was over. I'm not sure who The Cure's audience is, but I do know that people that like The Cure, love them, almost cultish kind of like them. And I don't think I ever ran with those crowds, except for the girl who liked Love Cats. And so I can't entirely tap into it. I don't like his voice. See, I mean, he sounds like he's about to cry, right? And I don't understand it. I'm not sure why you would cling on to that vocal style so much. So I don't mind it for a couple songs, but it's after a while, I just feel like, oh, is this guy going to cry? Why doesn't he just get it out, cry it out, and then move on? Good comment, Scott, in that there's not really a thread, right? In this, you're right. There's nothing that ties these songs together for me. But wow, can you ever just now, looking back, go, yeah, this was the precursor to alternative and to goth. You mentioned The Warehouse. I thought of the Republic, Scott. Yeah, I mean, you can see how REM, Violent Femmes came out. I even heard a bit of bass, which reminded me of New Order at times. But again, didn't love it, but certainly liked it more than I thought they would. But not my jam overall. And so something still eludes me about it. So I don't think it's a great album, but I'm glad I listened to it, and it was more enjoyable than I thought it would. Over to Darren.
Yeah, I like this one. Usually, at least a few of us are aligned. It seems like the three of you are aligned, but I feel like I'm off on an island here. Maybe I'm in that I love The Cure category myself. I always love my weirdos, the difference, and I think too. I always appreciated a sound. You can hear any U2 songs, and in two chords, it's U2. And I think that is also true for a band like The Cure. I think he actually, and Scott Gregory, you alluded to this, saying, I don't know what it is. He's playing pop songs, but they sound down and sad and emotional. But he, if you don't know, he was literally a master of many instruments, and was an amazing guitarist, and constantly played with that. And he would actually do his own tuning, and he wouldn't tune to the perfect correct notes on his guitar. He would always just do off tune, and he would even play with speed, tempo, and things like that, and pitch to actually change the songs just to give them a little bend. So even though it could be a pop song, and those tempo pitch changes are so slight, but he's actually, maybe all of a sudden making it sound more like a minor chord or something like that, that it's actually changing the whole sound, which I think is the genius part of Robert Smith. Obviously very influential. I mean, whether it be through the music itself or his look, he would wear heavy eyeliner, just smeared lipstick, and just white, foundation, and his hair was just crazy. But that still tracks to this day. People he really set that whole goth emo movement on fire. And again, I don't know that genre very well, so forgive me to those. I'm sure there's many that came before him potentially that are lesser known, but I hope you've accepted him as your ambassador, because obviously I think that's what most people know. Yeah, I mean, we'll do a few facts. Like, and sorry, I'm sounding a little rough. I was actually for my distillery, I was at the Edmonton Beer Festival all weekend, and those festivals, working them is like an epic pull, by the way. It's a lot of fun, though, but yeah, tough part of the job when you just have to like talk to people all day about alcohol and then party with friends. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, so this album, like I said, came out in 1985. He said at the time that he wanted to make it like very just eclectic and many different sounds. So you did pick up on that. Right away, to me, it almost reminded me of like how David Byrne and the Talking Heads would produce albums, like just many different world and music influences. And again, I think that was just he was such a talented musician, and he just looked for inspiration everywhere. And he wanted it to be like that. This was the kind of the return of his original band. It's him, Robert Smith. Simon Gallup came back, and he had been gone for a few albums. And Lowell Tolhurst, and then this Paul Thompson that was playing guitar, then moved to keyboards. But this was kind of the reuniting of, I guess, the band that would really gel as The Cure. He's not even as proud of some of that Love Cats and the earlier stuff. Killing an Arab was the big song that really actually got him the first hit. But he really grew and changed over the years. And then when he came back with this album, this was really the start of a great run for The Cure and Robert Smith. So, yeah, so he was trying to emulate. He thought Susie and the Banshees' Kaleidoscope and Human League Dare. And that's like the Don't You Want Me Baby. That's from that. But that album is quite interesting. Everybody will know that 80s song. You're like, I love that song. But if you listen to that album, the album is actually quite different and eclectic. There's a couple tunes that are a little bit dancey like that, but it's actually out there. So highly recommended. They're a great band of that era as well. It was a very commercially successful album. Honestly, it reached number 7 the UK albums. Like, it really like propelled them into this new level of fame. Again, it is a little different. It's a little like new wave. It's a little silly. He loved being part of the new wave movement, but apparently there's a story that when Duran Duran hit it big before The Cure did, and it was Rio, right? And if you remember in Rio, like he's like half the song is do 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 do, and Robert Smith apparently, and like again, considers himself like a very great musician and writer of songs. He writes almost all the songs and has, and just like was embarrassed. He's like, how does this band get that popular and they don't even have lyrics? They just said do do do. And so to this day, and if you go back through a lot of Cure songs, and now that I'm going to say this, you're going to get a kick out of it. He thought that was so ridiculous that he put it in his songs to make fun of Duran Duran. So when you hear, Love Cats, do 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 do, like, so he did that to like literally like, oh, okay, well, if writing doesn't count, I'm just gonna put in doo-doos as well, and literally would write a good song, but then would work in a few doo-doos to make fun of Duran Duran. There you go, a little weird moment. Known to be actually a really nice person, apparently. I think he went through some drugs and alcohol stuff, but as he matured and got older, he keeps his private life out of the spotlight. So really interesting. Apparently his wife is kind of quirky. They've never had kids. He doesn't believe in bringing anybody else into this crazy world. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's a little bit about that album. Again, I like it. I found it interesting, but it's time to do scores. So we'll throw it back and then we'll wrap it up. But I'm going to throw it to Alan and just kind of get him to score it.
Yeah, thanks. Oftentimes I feel like I ramble on and on during these reviews, but, this month, like I just don't really have that much to say. To Scott Gregory's point, this doesn't really feel like a cohesive album, just a collection of songs that don't suck. So, maybe that's why. And Scott, you also mentioned that Robert Smith is good at writing emo yet upbeat music, and that kind of got me thinking about the emo landscape that I think we're all kind of familiar with today in the modern era. Like, you can't listen to My Chemical Romance and not nod your head, even though the music can be pretty dour. So I guess maybe The Cure really is that prototypical emo band. Anyway, even though I'm kind of lukewarm on this whole album, I like being exposed to new music, and a few of these tracks now have a home on some of my assorted playlists. And to me, that's usually a good sign of a successful review at the Sonic Collective. So I think what I'll have to do is go and check out some more music from The Cure, because I did enjoy this album more than I thought I would. But all that being said, I think my scores are still going to be pretty mid. So overall, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. Influence, I'm giving it a 2.5 as well. Like I said, I'll go and check out some more of their stuff. And it's going to be a 2.5 for recommend as well. Like, I'm just very sort of lukewarm about this one. It's good for what it is. I didn't love it, but I definitely didn't hate it. So, check it out if you feel like you want to know what a prototypical emo band sounds like. Scotty G.
Yeah, so Scott, Robert Smith would never cry because boys don't cry. That's another Cure song, by the way. So I don't want to leave the impression that I thought it was a bad album. When I'm judging this album, it's against our criteria as far as an album listening experience, and then against my love of earlier Cure albums. I think individually there are some very interesting things happening on this album. Some of the singles are 5 out of 5 top Cure songs in existence, right? It's worth a listen. And as Darren mentioned, this is the start of them reaching a broader audience globally and living in the top 10 life. So it is a bit of a turnover moment for them. I just highly encourage you to go look at some of their earlier, broodier. There's like a series of 3 albums that are like called their like dark albums, I think, or something like that. Go listen to that triple play and you'll see what I'm talking about. But listen to this one too. Influence for me, I'll put as a 3. Like I said, this was the first real taste I got of them when I came here to Calgary. It's only a 3 though, because I think if I didn't hear that Crow soundtrack, this might not have been enough to put me over the top. But that 1-2 punch was recommend. I'll come in again at a nice lukewarm 3. Give it a listen, but if you're going to listen to this, please promise to listen to other stuff too. Don't let this be the only one you listen to, which then puts me at an overall of 3. But again, there are some 5s on here for singles. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, it strikes me how much the 3 of us are kind of aligned, and I'm still not sure why I don't have more to say about the album, because didn't dislike it, didn't hate it. You were talking about how Robert Smith looks, Darren, man. Have you seen, he's hanging on to that look, but he is not aging well. That guy still has the crazy hair, the white face, and literally looks like they just
He is
dug him up.
rocking that look. No, he is rocking that look.
Did you see him at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I don't know if he's rocking it.
No.
Oh, sorry. So this one, Influence, like, I give it a 2 because it didn't catch me at the time when they were big, and I don't think I'm likely to go back and seek out a lot of other Cure or that kind of music. So Influence is 2. I will give it a 4 for recommend, and maybe not just this album, but Cure, I suppose. But this album could work as well as any. But you say there's better ones, Scott Gregory. But I think understanding how music has evolved and changed throughout history, The Cure is certainly an important part of that. So listen to it. And I'll just give it a 3 overall. Like, again, I probably won't go back and listen to it again, but I did enjoy it enough on those listens. Over to you, Darren.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Again, I feel like, all right, this is one. It's like me versus the world. I love it. I started a story earlier and I forgot it, so I'm going to put it back in here. But it was talking about how Robert Smith's known to be a nice guy, but he went through many members. He really is the only one that's been consistent through all. Although there's been the members I mentioned in this band were around for quite a while and a lot of the hits. But he brought them all to his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction when he did it in 2019. And he had watch some interview clips from that year. Like, he does not like interviews and does not mess around. And some of the questions he got, he was pretty funny. So at that time, but that was cool. He brought everybody together and was just like, no, this is the Cure. It's not just me. He's very like humble that way, I guess, and has been, stayed out of the limelight besides being this enigmatic kind of goth, emo, pop, 80s icon. I mean, obviously I liked it a lot more than you guys, but that's okay. It's fine that you guys just don't appreciate good music. I'm just leaving the club and we'll just start another one with people I trust. No, I'm just kidding. That's the best part is you can have all these opinions. It's funny. Well, I'm the oldest member because I was there. Maybe it's like you had to be there or something. Scott Coates isn't that much younger than me, but anyway, for me, I would recommend, honestly, I think as a music fan, maybe I'm going to say a 5, but it's more just The Cure in general. But this album is great. I think as a music fan, you want to explore this sound because I mean he does have a sound. He's known for literally a whole genre, so you got to at least pay a little bit of attention there. Influence for me, I think a 4. Like I was interested in this kind of different music and alternative music when I was younger, thanks to Susan Rashid, and I still am now. I still really enjoyed it, and overall, I'm going to come in at 4. I don't think it's perfect, and there is some kind of different stuff, but I appreciate the effort. I appreciate all the different sounds the album put together, and it was just very interesting to me, and I like this. I think if you're especially into those genres of the 80s new wave and things like that, not even necessarily goth. I think it is really known as a new wave album first. Those terms came after. There was no goth or emo then. It was just all kind of put in that same category. But I'm glad you guys at least kind of thought it was decent and got some of the points there. And I don't know why I thought of picking The Cure this time, but I just thought, well, why not? Why not?
I'm glad you did. I love The Cure. This was great. I enjoyed listening to this album. I'm just, I only ranked it based on our criteria, right? So I don't think you and I are that far apart, honestly, right? The numbers might be giving a misleading tale here. I love The Cure. People should be listening to The Cure. Why aren't you listening to The Cure?
Awesome, right? Scott Coates, we are late, so we do apologize if there's anybody that was actually waiting, and we self-deprecating. I'm sure we've billions of listeners waiting for this.
Big in
so
South
sorry
America.
we're a bit late this month. Scott has already posted his pick, so there's no surprise. Sometimes we'll tease, but no need to tease. But Scott, what did you just pick?
I picked Continuum by John Mayer, and I went through a whole bunch of different possibilities. There were bands that I realized I'd never listened to an album by or couldn't name a song for that matter, and I came up with a list of about a half a dozen people, and I'm not quite sure why I picked John Mayer. I'd read about him a lot lately, and when I did look at his best albums, that one came up, and the producer on it is the drummer for the Rolling Stones now. So I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I've given it a few listens, but we won't tease too much here. We'll save that for the end. Hey, always good to listen to these kind of albums, especially like The Cure with some good cannabis. Cuban Links is a nice strain that's kind of focusing around right now, and I might have even talked about it before, but really enjoying it. Not on it now, but I should have been. Also, hey, and this show is proudly sponsored by New Craft Spirits, the best distillery in the world, as said by me. But we're based out of Alberta, and if you want to try some great gin products, make sure to ask for our gin tonic or gin soda. I'm going to start DJing locally here. I haven't told you guys that yet, but I got a few things coming up. We have a party coming up on the 12th. It looks like I've got a thing at Four Dogs Brewing coming up and Dandy Brewing coming up. So I'm literally just going to go and like absolutely be myself. Like, oh, you want like some kind of like funky modern DJ with that goes beep, boop, and buttons? No, I'm just going to play good music and talk a bit in between and have a good time with, almost that genre. I'm probably going to wheelhouse it a bit to the, I would say, lightly influenced 70s, 80s, 90s, heavy, and it maybe into the 2000s and some, but like kind of stick in my wheelhouse and have some fun with it. But anyway, guys, always fun to do these shows with you, and we love doing this. Yeah. Again, we're in our 10th year. We're about to have our 10th anniversary later this year, so it's pretty exciting, pretty crazy shit.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we sign out?
There's a new roller rink in town, so maybe you can try and DJ there and keep the Scott legend alive, keep it in the family. Yeah,
right. I'm sure I'll be terrible, but I don't care. If I like the music, I don't give a shit.
That's right.
Just kidding. No, it'll be good. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out more episodes on thesoniccollective.com. We're on all the famous podcast platforms, and check you out next time when we're back with Scott Coates and our review of John Mayer's Continuum. Until then, The Sonic Collective. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Sonic Collective, where we've explored the music, the history, and the impact of some of the greatest albums of all time. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained new insights and appreciation for the music you and we love. Join us next month for another exciting album, and until then, keep listening to great music.